I've given a very, very small introduction to you. All I've talked about is the name. So let's hear about Mr. Fraelian. And first, am I pronouncing your name right? Is it Fraelian?
Yes, you are.
Okay.
You can also call me Frey if you want.
Frey? Okay. I'll probably call you Fraelian. Full name. I like
Yeah.
that. So let's get an introduction to you. Let's see who you are. How long have you been playing TERA, first of all?
It'll be almost a year next month.
Awesome. Okay. So
Near the end of next month, it'll be a year.
So let's see. You came on then right around Reaper time.
Yes, I did. I believe it was just a few days before the Reaper patch is when I actually started playing.
Cool. Okay. So what made you pick Sorcerer, and have you been playing it the whole time?
Yes, Sorcerer was my first class, and it's been the class I've mained the entire time I've been here.
Okay. And what do you like about the Sorcerer? What made you pick it?
I just in general am a fan of magic, and especially heavy damaging magic like the sorcerers have.
Cool.
So, really hard-hitting skills like the Fire Blast and stuff, I'm a big fan of those in any MMO I play.
That makes sense. I love the magic too. I usually end up playing something more melee focused, but I always feel like I want to play a magic class. I don't like standing back. I like getting my face right in there.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Some of the MMOs I play, I try to see if there's a way I can get a magic class that plays at melee range.
Oh, yeah. There's not really a lot of those out there.
Yeah, sadly.
So let's see. We have you on Ascension Valley, and you're actually in the Enlightened Union 14, so you haven't picked up a guild, or at least a full-time guild.
I've picked up guilds before and then left them because I just wanted something different out of a guild. I mean, they were all good guilds. I was just looking for something different. Right now, I'm just in Enlightened Union 14 as I look for another guild to join.
Oh, okay. So if you're on AV and you need a good sorc, Fraelian's looking for a guild. So let's see. So you've done PvE primarily. How far have you gotten in PvE? What would you say is your biggest accomplishment, I guess, in PvE?
Biggest accomplishment? I'm not really sure. I mean, at present, I haven't done, say, Skycruiser hard mode or anything like that, so I'm not quite in game. I'm still working on it because I had to take about a month off for real life stuff around the time the current patch came out. But in general, my favorite thing to do is I really enjoy stuff like theory crafting and min-maxing my character and stuff like that.
Cool, okay. And people who are also interested in the theory crafting and the min-maxing, I shared a link to the forums as well. It's in the general discussion area. It's got a lot of links to stuff provided by Fraelian, and even the rotations, which we'll probably get into a little bit later, have it down to mana cost and damage output, and it's all broken down. It's really, really some interesting stuff. So if you're new to the Sorcerer, or even a current Sorcerer, go check it out. It's pretty neat. So what would you say for the Sorcerer is the biggest benefit, I guess, of the Sorcerer? Like, what makes the Sorcerer unique in PvE?
We have a lot of ranged AoEs and skills that, even if they're not, say, like Fire Blast, which does damage in a circle, they still hit a lot of targets like Ice Needle and Arcane Pulse. So we can hit a vast number of targets with heavy damage really fast. And also we have some utilities. So we have sleeps and stuns and stuff. And more recently, with the level 65 patch, we got Nova, which is basically the Sorcerer's strongest knockdown. So we're really a high utility class that does a lot of damage to a lot of mobs.
Awesome. I like the description. And it is it's a very cool class for people to play. And I think a lot of people, when they first pick up on TERA, I think a lot of people gravitate a little bit towards swords, and then realize that playing something like the Sorcerer is really cool. Because I see a lot of people say, oh, the first class I played as a Reaper, or the first class I played as a Warrior, because I wanted to flip around, but then they realize, you know what, swords are pretty cool too. So we have, and I'm going to get the links in chat, we're going to start talking about crystals, glyph setups, all that kind of good stuff. So we are going to jump into that, and I'm going to link those in chat. I just have to find all my commands here. And so we will start with crystals, and we don't need to spend too much time on it at the top of here, because it's mostly for new players. Like, what should I get started with, I suppose. So let me get my UI back up, and I'll open my profile because I got some of the recommended crystals on, and then I'll even do this. Just crystals. Okay. So let's talk about crystals. So in the accessory slot, what should we be looking for?
I primarily, with the current patch, prefer to go with the carving Veers for all 4 of mine, because it is +6 crit rate each. I've seen some sorcerers mix carving and power, and really I feel that with the power rolls that you get on, say, the sleeves and such, I don't really feel that there's much of a need for the power Veers for sorcerers at the moment. I feel like crit rate really does better for the sorcerers as far as the crystals are concerned.
Okay. And so I've got 4 of those in here, and that's what you recommend, is going with 4 carvings?
Yes, that's my personal recommendation.
Okay. And so we'll go into, we'll say armor now, because that one's fairly simple. For PvE, and I'm assuming this is like dungeons and stuff like that, a fine hardy, you say 4 of those, is that right?
Yes, I use 4 of those in dungeons for the damage reduction it provides.
All right. And then in the weapon, of course, there's going to always be a little bit of a variation because you can't stack one specific crystal. But so we have 1 fine focused, 1 fine savage, 1 fine carving, and 1 fine bitter. Now, are there other ones that you may recommend mixing in and out of in PvE?
Yes, if you're doing, say, solo hunting or something, then there's also the forceful one. If you get a back crit on a target, it boosts your power by 20 for 10 seconds. So if you're doing solo hunting, for a sorcerer, it's pretty easy to get a back crit. You just have to move to the back when your hailstorm is down and hitting them, and in general you get a back crit, and that gives you a DPS boost even if the monster you're hunting is facing you. So for like solo vault, I will swap the carving for the forceful.
Okay, so carving for forceful is probably a good swap out. But for the most part, it looks like this would be good to have for just general use, I suppose.
Yeah, the forceful is mostly just for solo BAM hunting and such like that.
Okay. And then, so, stats for rolling on the equipment. I believe I don't have a command for that, but it is in the link on the forums, and I can provide a profile, or I can provide a copy-paste of it as well. I'll at least link to the forums, because there's a lot to it. So, in the weapon here, it looks like we just focus on, it looks primarily like you would be seeing for other DPS classes, damage from behind, damage when you attack. I think everybody takes that. That's a damage dealer. And then more damage when you attack an enraged monster on the weapon. Would you recommend possibly switching any of those out for something else at any point?
No, not for the present content, because those do much higher white damage. All of those rolls together on the intense weapon total about 40% more damage, which is a massive boost. And then when you crit, that damage just increases, so you get more crit damage off of that as well.
Okay.
So yeah, I recommend the intense weapon over the keen for sorcerers for that reason. In general, it seems to produce a higher DPS, despite the fact that you're losing 14 crit rate.
Cool. Okay. And that's good to know too. I think that was one of the first questions that all of us have when we get to 65 is, which discovery weapon should I get? Should I get keen? Should I get intense? So that's good to know. You recommend intense.
Yeah, I recommend intense for the current patch, and if you're worried about losing that crit rate and you have a generation weapon, it also has a roll at +7 that you can roll for 14 crit rate.
Okay. And then we'll just go down the order that we have it in the forum thread as well. So if people are reading along, we can talk about that as well. Going on to the chest piece, the robe. Looks like you recommend rolling for damage of Fire Blast. I haven't really heard anybody recommend anything other than that. Is there a particular reason why Fire Blast is just so much better than all the others?
It's because with your self buffs, your Fire Blast damage is basically the highest damaging skill you have.
Okay.
So, you know, just adding more damage to the heaviest skill in your rotation is better overall.
Okay, I see. And then I think you actually have in here the... you said plus 8% HP or minus 9.3% damage from enraged monsters. I took the HP, but the taking it from enraged monsters, when would you might want to switch those out?
When you're getting to higher and higher DPS levels and you're running with other people that are better geared and better skilled, the monster is enraged more and more often. So when you get to a certain point where you're keeping the monster enraged a considerable amount of the fight, then the damage reduction from enraged is better.
Okay.
If you're somewhat lower, like I haven't quite gotten to that point, I'm almost there. So for right now, I just use the additional HP because the monster isn't going to be enraged all of the time. And if he turns around and attacks you when he's not enraged, then that enrage roll doesn't really do much.
Okay. Good to know. All right. So for gloves, it looks like it's pretty much just straight power, crit rate, and attack speed, which is, it goes along with some of the other classes as well. I don't see any reason why you would not want those. And shoes, again, if you're looking at the forum thread, it was linked just a little bit ago. For shoes, we see 4 endurance. Where did it go? Here we go. 4 endurance, movement speed, and then I actually picked the wrong roll for this, but you say balance factor by 10. Now, for people who are unaware, why would you need the extra balance factor then?
That's mostly in case of the chance of knockdown from some attacks. As far as I'm aware, there aren't a whole lot, but really that's just a good roll to have. It's not really terribly important, at least to me, but it's still just a good roll to have in general.
Okay. And then we'll just move on to the, I think we already talked about gloves. We'll move on to the belt, I guess. So I think I'm going to go a little bit out of order than what's on the forums. Power and crit rate seems kind of self-explanatory. If you have anything, of course, that you want to chime in on, feel free to let me know if there's a specific reason why you want to pick something.
Yeah, on the belt, I believe you can roll for double crit rate, and that's not a terrible thing for sorcerers to do, is to stack more crit rate than power. I personally prefer doing crit rate first, but then where I can, like on the belt, trying to add in a little bit of extra power for the extra white DPS it provides.
Okay. And then on the, we'll go with the innerwear. I actually took the unmentionables, but on innerwear, fortified briefs or satin briefs. Why pick one or the other?
Both of those just provide a bonus crit rate of 12. That's really the big reason to use them.
Okay. So there's no specific reason why anybody should be going for anything other than crit rate on the innerwear.
Yeah, like right now I have unmentionables just because I haven't been able to get the crit rate inner armor yet.
Sure. Okay. And we'll go to the brooch, since we'll kind of complete the accessories that aren't ring, necklace, and earring. For brooch, quick carve. You say you can use cleansing or quick carve, and you say cleansing brooch preferred for Baptismal Rice, so you would pretty much only keep that in Baptismal Rice?
Pretty much, yeah. That's where I use it because, you know, the healer isn't always going to be able to cleanse everyone. Maybe you're far away or something like that, or the healer's dead. It's better to have the cleansing effect, so that way you're not taking damage over time.
Okay. All right, and then we'll move on to the earrings. So Fire Trill and Deathwise, it looks like those are the two that it's pretty common to have that setup. I think everybody is doing this now, 2-piece of Fire Tune and 2-piece of, or 3-piece rather, of the Deathwise or whatever the other set is for your class. But For the Fire Trill, you can actually roll on Fire Trill, which is nice. But I have duration of stun effects by 10% and max HP by 4.5%. This is on the earrings. Why take the stun duration?
I'm not really aware of any other useful roles on these rings. The stun duration is actually a recommendation I found online.
Okay. And then max HP, we already kind of explained that. Just got to have more health in case you get hit.
Yeah, it does help just a little bit.
All right. And then on the actual rings, the bands, I suppose. Crit damage, crit rate. We've already talked about that a little bit as well. Seems kind of self-explanatory for a damage dealer. But I saw one of the rolls was replenish 0.4% of total MP. Is there a reason to not go for that a little more frequently?
0.4% of total MP is not actually a terrible lot, but it does help just a little bit in the very long run, say really long fights. So I prefer that on just one roll of that, just for that little extra bit. It's not a lot, but it does help.
Okay. But for the most part, you can probably stick with crit rate, crit damage on most of these as well, too.
Yes.
So losing maybe crit damage or crit rate on one of these for a little bit of extra MP is a fair trade-off, you would think?
Yes, in some cases, and it depends on the content as well.
Okay.
Like when the level cap was 60, I probably wouldn't have gone for that because the Sorcerer's MP replenishment skills were generally enough to keep me up.
But now it's a little tougher to keep the mana topped off?
Yes, it is just a little bit tougher with the current content.
Okay. And then we'll just go through etchings very quickly. I don't have the etchings on my character, but I'll read off what you've got on your guide. So for etchings, you recommend for the weapon and the gloves going for carving 2 or 3. 2 or 3 is, I guess, based on what you can afford, huh?
Yes, it is. And I recommend carving 2 just because of the extra bonus it provides. I mean, if you can only afford a carving 1, then go for that. But if you can wait just a little bit longer and get a carving 2, then just wait a little bit longer.
And it's probably a good idea to save that money for a carving 3 on maybe some of the later pieces of gear. Maybe not even. Would you recommend getting carving 3 on Discovery?
It depends on if you're going to go for the generation gear or not. If you definitely are going for generation, then just save the money and get a carving 2 for now.
Okay.
If you're
probably not worth it.
Yeah, if you're planning on just sticking with Discovery, which I'm not sure if I'm going to do yet, then carving 3 might be better for you.
Fair enough. Okay. Chest piece, you say grounded or relentless, and that's the grounding 2 or 3, and then relentless 2 or 3. Why pick one or the other?
The relentless will raise your maximum HP, and the grounded will raise your endurance. I'm not sure which is better, to be honest. I haven't done any testing on that just yet because I've not used those etchings at all before. But, it depends, at least partly, on personal preference, because the endurance increases your defense.
And I think that's definitely a key that newer players can look at too. Is there's a lot of things where it almost feels like a no-brainer to pick one thing or the other, but there are some situations that is just what are you more comfortable with. So if you're more comfortable with relentless over grounding, it sounds like this is one of those sections that it's just based on comfort level too.
Yeah, and some of the things the sorcerers do is based partly on comfort level, like the difference between going full crit rate build and a crit rate power hybrid build. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Cool. And then shoes, grounded 2 or 3. So that's just the recommended for that, I suppose. All right. So we'll talk briefly about stat priorities as well, and I'll move my character frame over here. So for stat priorities, this is what you wrote to me as well. Crit rate, then power, then crit damage for attack, and then for defensive pieces, endurance, then balance, then decrease in X effect duration. So something like stun duration would fall into that area. So crit rate, then power, then crit damage. Where does attack speed fall into this? Does attack speed fall near the end of the stat priority for attacking?
Yes, it will, because in general, you can get, like, if you look at your profile, you have plus 20 attack speed with a plus 12 weapon. And in general, plus 20 to plus 21 is about where you want to be able to pull off most high damage rotations. Like, my second rotation that I sent to you relies primarily on having about plus 20 or so attack speed if you want to complete the entire rotation that you need under Burst of Celerity.
Okay, so
So,
so 20, 21 attack speed. That's kind of the wheelhouse that you want to get to.
yes, that's pretty much where you want to be in general.
And it looks like I got there fairly easily just with I'm just wearing discovery pieces as well as and then I'll quickly go through the gear again for people looking on stream, and then we'll move on to the next thing. So one of the things that you also sent in, which a lot of people don't include this, but I think especially for PvE, this is really nice to have, is recommended consumables. So if there's specific things you want to talk about in the recommended consumables, we can. I think it's fairly straightforward, but for new players, I think the consumable section of it is a little more confusing because there's so many extra things you can do to increase your utility, your damage, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and just for the consumables, the big thing is the warding scroll, which will absorb, if you have the highest tier available, 16,000 damage. And that's important for sorcerers. We're the squishiest class in TERA. You know, we die really easily, so having that extra bit of damage absorption can really save you. I know it saved me a number of times.
And I'll link the forum thread one more time for people that want to go see that. I don't believe I have the consumables built into Moobot. No, I don't. But definitely go and check those consumables out if you're a newer player to TERA, or you're an existing player and you maybe don't use all those consumables. But these can really give you an extra boost. So in there is kind of what you should be looking for in terms of consumables. And I'll just mention them very quickly for people who just want to watch. So in here we have the Onslaught Scroll of Cruelty. That's number 5 or number 6. And those are just increased crit damage. Makes sense. And Noctinium Infusion, every class. Every class should use Noctinium Infusions, especially if they're working on progression stuff. Nostrum of Energy 5. Ranger's Nostrum. Nostrum, 5. Heart Potion 3. Healing Elixir 10. Mana Drought 10. And Eclipse Potion 3, 4, or 5. So those would be very helpful if you are new to the TERA game or new to endgame content and you want to do some PvE. Those are very helpful to have. Do you recommend not using, I guess, consumables and some content? Like, are you always popping consumables even when you go off and maybe you're doing something a little lower level just to, like, so for example, if you did Sky Cruiser normal, would you be popping a bunch of these consumables?
Yes, and for Sky Cruiser normal, I would, if you have just Discovery gear, I would probably even add in a Canaphora potion if you have one.
Oh,
Not
okay.
necessary, but it might be a good idea. But Canaphora is mostly for players who can really afford it or who have a lot of it saved up.
Awesome. Yeah, and they can definitely get up there in price. So if you can't afford it, don't feel like you're being a huge a huge problem.
Yeah, and that's why I didn't put it on the list, because that's mostly for really if you can afford it.
Fair enough. Okay.
And just one thing I want to mention about the consumables.
Yeah.
If you have a really good priest or a really good mystic, you can actually sometimes ignore the mana consumable. I've had runs with priests and mystics who are able to keep my mana high enough without the need for it. It's mostly for, if you get, say, you're halfway through your rotation and suddenly you're out of mana, you can just pop one of those really quick.
Okay. Awesome. Alrighty. So then let's move on to, we're going to talk about like rotation and mentality. So we talked a little bit about what makes the Sorcerer so unique, a little bit at the top of the stream. But let's talk about the mentality of the Sorcerer, what you should be looking for, I guess, and also something along the lines of like where should you be standing, how should you be approaching boss fights, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, sorry, just trying to hold back a hiccup there.
No problem.
But yeah, as far as the mentality and where you should be standing, For my rotations, I like to start out at about 12 to 13 meters on the back of the boss. And then when I get to a certain point, I actually like to move up. And the reason I do this is because Nova is a very heavy-hitting skill as well. It's not the heaviest, but it can still crit for well over 1 million damage. So, getting to about 6 meters out will allow it to hit the boss, and that can provide drastic damage and a significant boost to your DPS.
Oh, cool. Okay. Definitely like that. And so for... I think for every DPS class, the plan is to get behind the boss. But because the sorcerer is so squishy, are there other types of like mentalities that players should adopt when playing the sorcerer, especially in boss fights?
Yeah, especially in boss fights and dungeons. Try to iframe or dodge the attacks that are coming at you, because we're a lot squishier. I mean, even in with a discovery chest piece and a discovery weapon and ambit boots and sleeves, I've actually been in BRNM and been one-shot by some of the boss's attacks.
Wow.
Yeah, because I didn't have my consumables up like warding scrolls, so that boss just kind of put me on the ground. So, we're very squishy. Now I have better gear, so that doesn't happen nearly as often in normal mode dungeons. So, it's slightly less of a worry as you gear up, but overall we're almost defenseless, really. Our iframes and our movement skills are primarily what save us from dying.
And remember, if you're dead, you can't deal damage.
Exactly.
So make sure that you're avoiding that damage. That's good. I like that. That's something that I'm very bad at, and Minea can speak to that. On my Berserker, I get hit by everything, and she's trying to spam heal as much as possible and drop as many motes, and I'm just running around like a chicken with my head cut off. But that's part of the fun for me.
Yeah, and on Sorcerer, you really have to learn more to dodge the attacks, or with Warp Barrier, which is an iframe. I prefer to use Warp Barrier just because it also restores MP every time you get hit.
Awesome, and I'll bring up this. Don't look at my glyphs. Nobody look at my glyphs. My glyphs are not set up to the recommended glyphs, and if you want to see those, exclamation point guest glyphs. So there's the glyphs right there. But I was just going to show Mana Barrier so people can see. What does Mana Barrier do? Cast a magical shield that absorbs up to 17,346 damage. Pretty long cooldown on that, though, so I think you're probably going to have to be not using it as anytime, hopefully using it when you're in danger.
Yeah, and that's primarily where I use it, and I see you didn't include this in the glyph setup. On the glyph command, there's a glyph setup I use for one rotation and a different one I use for another. And the one I use for my first rotation, which is right now my primary one, you can actually swap out the cooldown glyph on Nova for the power glyph on Mana Barrier. And the reason this might be useful is Mana Barrier drains your MP every time you get hit. So having those few seconds of bonus power might actually help you get more DPS out to make up for the fact that you're draining mana considerably faster.
And I do have the rotations in here too, so I can share those as well. If it is guest rotation. There we go. So if you guys are interested in those rotations, this has a lot of the theory crafting in it too, which is really cool. So I think it'd be good if we talk about those. So I'm gonna open one of these real quick, and we can talk about these two combos. So these two combos, I have the two links: the Sorcerer Combo 1 and Sorcerer Combo 2. They should be in order for people that are actually looking on the stream, and they're opening them as well. So Combo 1. What's the benefit of Combo 1 over Combo 2? I guess what's the difference between them?
If you have a lower attack speed than about plus 20 on your Sorcerer, then Combo 1 might be better for you because it's very forgiving in the need to reposition and still being able to get all of the skills off in time. So, if the boss turns around and faces you as secondary aggro, you can just get out of the way and continue as if you never had to reposition at all.
Oh, okay.
So it's less skills, but it's very forgiving with the need to reposition for those who don't quite have the attack speed they need yet.
Ah, okay. I see.
And also, combo 1 is the one I was talking about earlier. You can swap out the Nova cooldown glyph for the bonus power on Mana Barrier, if you're more comfortable doing that.
Oh, okay. Let's see here. So I'm just looking through this. Mana cost with glyphs. So roughly, I guess looking at this, you can see, I guess you could guess how long this takes. But in practice, doing this full rotation, it says 59,500 damage with self buffs, just base damage. How long does it take to get this whole combo out?
The whole combo, what I try to do is generally, even with the need to reposition, by the time you're on the Glacial Retreat, which is the last skill in combo 1, the cooldown from Burst of Celerity should ideally be about 1 second to completely off and ready to go again.
Oh, okay. So pretty much you can almost just spam this combo over and over and over again, because by the time you end with Glacial Retreat, everything else should be coming back up.
Yes, it should be.
That's pretty cool. Okay, so that's really good for newer players. Both combos shared, and if you were interested in the combos, you can either look at the forum thread, or I'll type it in again, guest rotation. And there's 2 links in there. If you're watching on YouTube or you're watching a highlight, there should be links in the description for your YouTube or your Twitch highlight video, so you can get to those links. If you're a newer player to Sorcerer, practice those. That'd be a really good idea to practice those. I think I need to practice those.
Yeah, and on the second one, I wrote it in the note, but you can actually pull off the second one with lower attack speeds if you have a good tank who's capable of really holding aggro so the boss doesn't even focus you as a secondary. But if you have plus 20 or greater attack speed without priest buffs or anything like that, then you can also get your Mana Infusion underneath the Burst of Celerity. And that's really good because Mana Infusion has a really long animation time.
Awesome. Oh, okay. Let's see. And
But
course,
yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
that is a note in there just as a reminder that you can do it. And you can see I highlighted the skills that should fall under the Burst of Celerity buff on each of them. So the greenish color, all of those should be under Burst of Celerity ideally.
Awesome. Oh, that's really convenient actually, having all those highlighted. That's really cool. Okay, awesome. That's really good information to have. I appreciate you setting that whole combo up, and even for people who are really, I'm not much of a math guy. I look at them and I hope one is doing more damage than the other, but seeing the stuff broken down is always really cool, so I appreciate you doing that as well. You're
welcome, and really the idea for that actually came from Yosha, so we do have to thank Yosha for that part. I wasn't actually going to do that, and then I saw Yosha do it, and I was like, hey, that's actually a good idea.
And we had Yosha on for the level 61 as well. For people who don't know who Yosha is, if you go to Google and you just Google like Yosha blog TERA, you can follow his blog as well. Since we'll give him a little shout out there. Yosha's a very, very cool guy.
Yes.
All right, so let's move on here. Let's see, where am I? I want to make sure I'm not lost. So we've got the rotation. And we've kind of gone through all the other stuff, and we have the glyphs, and the glyphs are recommended for each rotation actually. But in the glyphs, I do want to talk about, are there specific glyphs that are maybe questionable? Maybe some people don't use them, and they're a point of discussion that you'd like to bring up.
Maybe the Impelling Fire Blast glyph. It's 6 glyph points for a 30% chance to eliminate MP cost. Some people may not be comfortable with that. At first I was not. I didn't use it at first, but then I started using it, and I just kind of realized that even the low chance relative to the high point cost, it can save you in mana down the line. Because I've had a lot of times where I've had the mana to get off 2 rotations without consumables, or the priest or the mystic giving me mana, and all because that glyph activated twice in a row.
Oh, okay. So, but does not necessarily need to be used all the time, but it's definitely recommended, you'd say?
Yes, I would personally recommend that glyph. I believe it was recommended last patch, and I would recommend it again this patch because that 30% actually can help you massively. Because you can see Fire Blast has a relatively high mana usage of 1,000, and then you can subtract 250 from that if you glyph it, but that's still 750. It's still a lot of mana taken up.
Okay. Awesome. All right. So we've covered a lot of different things: stats, glyphs, a little bit of rotation, mentality, stuff like that. I wanted to get into some more specific stuff with you, and talk about anything that you feel needs to be talked about, things you maybe see sorcerers doing wrong, or even something maybe sorcerers don't understand, like especially for newer players. I like these to be tailored for either players fresh 65 or maybe they're going to make an alt. Any topics that you wanted to bring up for that?
The biggest thing I see sorcerers doing wrong is for rotations for sorcerer, there are some guiding principles, and you don't have to follow all of the guiding principles, but they are good there, and you should follow ideally a few of them, like over channeling Fire Blast all the time, or trying to get the crit rate glyphs on either Arcane Pulse or Nova to apply while Hellstorm is down. Those are some guiding principles that can be really, really helpful for DPS. And, I see some sorts, they'll not always do that. They might overchannel their Hailstorm, and the overchannel only applies to the first tick of damage from Hailstorm, not all of them. So that's a significant problem because you've just wasted plus 25% damage on a skill that only uses it once rather than the entire time it's hitting.
Oh, okay, okay.
And another thing I see some sorcerers doing, mostly newer ones who just hit level 65, is using Burst of Celerity and then doing maybe a Hailstorm and then the rest auto attacks until Burst of Celerity is up. They're not using their really heavy hitting skills, either not at all or not appropriately.
So making sure that when you... And Burst of Celerity does have a nice short cooldown, which is nice, but making sure that you maximize the damage from that Burst of Celerity.
Yes, just try to get your heaviest hitting skills underneath Burst of Celerity. So Fire Blast, Hailstorm, each individual tick is not heavy, but it's 25 hits over 10 seconds, assuming whatever you're hitting stays in it the entire time. So it can add up to a lot of damage in itself. And Arcane Pulse and Void Pulse and Nova and Flame Barrage, those are all really heavy hitters that ideally should fall under the Burst of Celerity. If you look at my rotations, I do have one Flame Barrage that's not under Burst of Celerity that's for its extra damage primarily.
Okay, and the reason that it's not in the Burst of Celerity is just the Burst of Celerity is not up at that point?
Yes, we're still waiting on the cooldown, and there is one that's already underneath there. It's just getting another off while waiting because Flame Barrage has a 3-second cooldown.
Okay. Nice short cooldown. I like that. Now, are there skills that maybe sorcerers don't use but could be used in some situations? Like, I'm trying to look through here and see some skills that maybe aren't used in your rotation. Thinking like Burning Breath is probably one that I don't see in either of these rotations. Is there a point, or is there a time when you would actually be using something like Burning Breath?
Burning Breath and Pain Blast just don't really do enough damage over time compared to something like Hailstorm.
So it just makes more it makes more sense efficiently to do something else that's included in that rotation, something else that just deals more damage overall.
Yes, it does. And there are actually two skills I will sometimes use if I have the chance. Like, say, I've gotten the Energy Stars buff from the Priest, and I'm still using my first rotation instead of my second. Then I like to throw in a Flame Pillar. It's not a very high damage, but it does a lot of ticks in a very short time, and it does not have a whole lot of mana cost. It's only 160 base.
Okay. So I see Flame Pillar not really being recommended for PvE or PvP too frequently, but there is a time and a place for it.
Yeah, if you have the extra time, if I have enough attack speed from Energy Stars, I'd like to throw it in between Fire Blast and Mana Infusion just for that little extra bit of damage. It's not a lot, but it can help, and it can also hit waves of mobs. So, somewhere like Sky Cruiser normal mode, that might be helpful if you can fit it in there. But if you can't, just don't worry about it too much.
Okay.
And another skill is Mana Volley. And, I've been interrupted during either my Mana Siphon or my Mana Infusion, and I wasn't able to get those off, and it messed up my rotation. And Mana Volley restores 30% of your maximum MP. So that's very nice to have. It's a very long cooldown, but if you have to throw it in there, you can, because that 30% MP is really nice. So, if you get interrupted during Mana Infusion or Mana Siphon, you can throw that in there if it's off cooldown.
So don't forget about your Mana Volley.
Yeah, don't forget about it, but just kind of have it out of the way in case you need it.
So it's probably something you could put on your extra bars.
Yes.
Maybe not something you'll be using all the time. So Teleport Jaunt, I actually want to talk about this because it's such a short cooldown and it's such an important ability. Now, Teleport Jaunt on such a short cooldown, do you use it primarily for? I guess the question. Let me rephrase it. Do you save Teleport Jaunt strictly for iframing, or do you use it for repositioning as well?
I use it for both iframing and repositioning. And I mean, it's got a short cooldown, but failing that, there's also Warp Barrier, and Teleport Jaunt's cooldown is tied to Backstep, but Backstep only goes on a 5-second cooldown, and it has an iframe as well. So, you can safely use Teleport Jaunt just for repositioning rather than iframing an attack.
Awesome, okay. And that's good to know, because I always stress out whenever I'm playing, like, when should I be using these iframes? And then I end up getting hit by something that I should have iframed.
Yeah, my primary iframes are Warp Barrier and Backstep. I prefer those over Teleport Jaunt because they're relatively short distance, whereas Teleport Jaunt is 14 meters in a straight line. So it's a very long distance and can be used for repositioning.
Okay. I'm looking at the Backstep too, so people can see maybe if they're new. And for people that also, I always try and make sure that I explain some of the things that we use very frequently. Something along the lines of iframe. We've explained it before, but did you want to give just a very small description of what iframe really means?
Yeah, an iframe means an invulnerability frame or invincibility frame, and it's just a skill that for a short duration while the skill is active, you're invulnerable to any attacks. You don't take any damage, stuff like that.
And there's just a very small period of time when you're using some of these skills where you're actually invulnerable. So if you use Backstep, just right during that time is you can actually avoid damage. So if something's about to hit you, you can get out of damage very quickly.
Yes, and it's actually a very short time. It requires practice to time it correctly. It isn't like you have 5 seconds where nothing hits you. Although Sword does have a skill like that, the Stone Skin skill.
And it's not a buff either. I think that's what may confuse some newer players and even some veteran players have to get used to the timing of it. Because it's not a buff, you need to understand the exact timing of the iframe.
Yes, you need to understand how the timing works, what point in the animation you become invulnerable and stuff like that. And
so the best way to practice those things is just go out, start hitting a mob, and see, and try to avoid its damage, and see when the iframe is effective. And it'll be different for people with different pings too, which is always tough to pinpoint exactly.
Yeah, and given how squishy sorcerers are, you will learn very quickly when you will die and when you will not die.
All right, so we've covered a lot of good information too. We're getting to the 4 o'clock time. We've been doing this for about 45 minutes already. It's pretty good. Was there other things you wanted to cover before opening it up to some questions from chat?
None that I can think of at the moment.
And it's good. I mean, you have so much information that you've shared with us in the form of the combos and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of information we could have just covered vocally or verbally, I guess is the better way to say it. But because we have a lot of it in the forums, in Google Docs, all those kind of things, players can definitely check those out. And again, if you are watching this as a recording, we should have links in the details for you to get to as well.
Yeah, there is one quick thing I want to mention. In both of my rotations, I have Glacial Retreat at the end, and that does damage, but it's not a terrible lot of damage, and it doesn't always slow the boss down. That's primarily for repositioning, because like I said, I like to start each new rotation at about 12 to 13 meters out from the boss, and then move in the middle of the rotation for Nova.
Oh, okay.
So, that's primarily just a repositioning skill, and the fact that it does little damage is just icing on the cake, really.
And I'll get Glacial Retreat up so people can see that one as well. I was, kind of hovering over the skill. Short cooldown, too.
Yeah, it's a very short cooldown. It can be used in solo hunting to reposition behind the boss if you want to. I don't generally do that, though.
Nice. Wait, Tonka never put the huge recommended equipment list I made for Priest? Where? Where did I not put it? In the description on, which one? I don't know what he's talking about. If it's on YouTube, just let me know. Just send me a message on Skype and I'll fix it. Yeah, I think I never really actually said it, but we are on Ascension Valley. Have you been playing on Ascension Valley your whole time?
No, I started out on MT and then moved to Ascension Valley after a few weeks.
Okay. All right, so I think we'll get to some questions from chat, and I know there was one that actually popped up earlier that I'm curious about as well. And this is not TERA related, but where are you from?
I'm from Mississippi.
Mississippi, okay. I think people were talking about the accent. They were wondering where you were from.
Yeah, I saw some people guess that I was from the Midwest.
Yeah.
Sorry, but you're several thousand miles off.
Oh, man. That's pretty cool. I think a lot, it's funny, in the past we've done, I think we're up to about 10 Teach Me How To streams at this point. The majority of the people that come on are from Canada, and I think you're the first person we've had from pretty much not Canada, and I think we've had a couple of people from, I'm trying to remember where the other people from the States have been from, but a lot of Canadians. Mississippi, that's right.
Yeah, originally from Mississippi. Although I don't have a very thick Southern accent, as you've probably noticed.
Very easy to understand. I like it.
Thank you. I
used to play games with a buddy from Alabama, and his accent was super thick. And it was always a little bit difficult to understand what he was talking about. Because I've grown up in Seattle my whole life, so I have pretty much no accent at all. And I don't really talk to a lot of people with accents, so it's always tough for me to understand. But you have a very pleasant, easy to understand accent.
Well, thank you. I've been told that people like my accent because they can tell that I'm from the South, but that I also sound incredibly intelligent.
Oh.
So, yeah, I've been told that, and I'm like, well, thank you. Nice compliment. Yeah.
Let's see. So if anybody's got any questions for Fraelian or for Fraelian as a TERA player or Fraelian in real life, I mean, if he doesn't want to answer a question, he just doesn't have to answer it. But if you've got questions for him, feel free to ask in here. I'll answer some of the questions for us as well. When did the stream start? It was about an hour ago. And let's see. Who's doing the Lancer stream? That's actually a good question. Let's see who I have on the docket. I don't think I've confirmed any Lancers yet. Good one. Sorry, did you see one?
Yes, Cookie Rascals. You see that?
Yeah, I do. So, let's see. Would an attack speed and cooldown reduction be useful for a sorcerer? Using quick weapons plus energetic etchings, would that be possible to put more skills into BOC and the rotation?
You could put more skills into the Burst of Celerity and the rotation in general, yes, but you're losing a massive amount of damage doing that. So, it's really not worth the trade-off, especially considering that a plus 12 Discovery weapon grants you a 4.5% attack speed bonus just from the fact that you've plus 12'd it.
And then I see one for the best race for Sork. So I'm a Kastanic female. You are an Ellen. What would you recommend best race?
I really would say that there is no best race. Every class has every race has its advantages and disadvantages for Sorcerer. Like, I believe the High Elves have a higher passive mana regen, so that might be useful. But overall, I just picked Ellen because I really like them. They're really cute.
Mm-hmm. I think that's fair. So you would say a lot of, especially in PvP, people say there's one race that is best for the class, but you'd say High Elf, Kastanic, and Ellen are all, you'd say, fairly even?
Yeah, I'd consider them fairly even in terms of the what their racials do for the class in PvE.
Mm. All right, and then somebody was asking, who's doing Lancer stream? I don't have the people picked out just yet. I think, hopefully, and I'm not gonna say that they are definitely coming on because I still have to talk to them about schedules. I don't have one scheduled yet, but the people that signed up, we have a handful for PvP. Axilius rather. And Ogre Drive both signed up for PvP, and then for PvE, Sky, Phantasmal, and Jenna James. Not the real Jenna James. But they signed up for PvE, and I haven't confirmed whether or not we can hit a schedule that brings all of them in. I would like to see if we could do like a roundtable kind of discussion for them. But all right, let's see if we've got any other Sork or Fraelian related questions here.
What Delicious Mommy said, using energetic etchings over crit etchings means a loss of 36 crit rate. And yes, you really don't want to lose that crit rate. That's 36 crit rate is a lot. You generally don't want to pick energetic etchings over it, except there may be some case, mostly in, say, PvP with some classes. But for PvE sorcerers, you just don't want to lose that crit rate.
Okay. Let's see here. Yeah, and of course, if you're interested in PvP, the PvP aspect of it, we've already covered PvP sorcerers a little bit in the past, so you can check out our YouTube channel or our highlights on Twitch if you wanted to go back and see Sorcerer, which was on the 3rd of April, and that was with Giraffe. So if you're looking for specifics.
And just something I want to say earlier, one of the people in chat wanted to be my friend since they're from the same state I am. You can actually follow my stream. I don't stream regularly at the moment. I don't have a regular schedule, but I do occasionally stream TERA when I feel like it.
Yeah, I know you did send me that link, so I'll grab it and I'll post it in chat here. Here's the Twitch channel for Mr. Fraelian, and I'll set up a quick Moobot command.
The name of the costume is the Ellen Ruby Red Tuxedo Top. Aha. And no, I did not have to look at my profile to answer that question. I don't know what that says about me, but it says something.
You just wear it too much, you just forget the name. I do that, actually. I always forget what I'm wearing.
I don't. I really like this one. I really feel that the costume fits the magic part of the class.
I do dig it. I like the accessories that you got going on for the hair as well. The red black combo looks good all throughout.
Thank you. Originally, my hair was actually blue. I changed that, and really I changed just about everything at one point because I decided I just wanted to change and look better.
I'll give a little demonstration of the look. We'll kind of do a little circle here. Not all that. I'm going a little fast. That's jerky, but we can at least see it. This turned into a fashion stream. Oh no, it turns into it a lot, I think.
Yeah, it does. Just because fashion is one of those things that's always been a part of TERA.
Everybody likes looking good. I mean, that's why we have fashion coupons.
Yep.
I mean, I think I look pretty good. I mean, I'm shorter than you right now. My head is also much larger.
Yes, but I do like the look.
I usually have the bandit mask on, too. I like this look on myself, too.
I like it.
Silly. Zoom in on thighs, please. Oh my goodness, no. Let's see here. So, if we have any other questions for Fraelian or about sorcerers in general or Fraelian, feel free to ask them in chat, and we'll do our best to answer them. I'll answer some other questions as well that are maybe non-related, and then I'll let him go off back into the world of TERA. Let's see. This is off topic, but do we have a date for when the Gunner will be released on NA? We know the month, which is May, but no date. No date yet. No date. Feel free to guess and take bets. Do a betting pool. Not real life money, because I can't sanction that. But do a betting pool. Did you mention rotations? Absolutely.
Yeah, and the question, is Fireball used at all? Not in general. I don't use Fireball except maybe somewhere like Rift's Edge. If I'm up to timing the crystals, Fireball travels very fast and will destroy the crystal with one hit. But overall, I don't use Fireball in my rotations unless I accidentally hit the button. I do keep it on my skill bar in case I need it.
Very good, very good. Let's see here. I don't think we have enough scream to zoom in on Ellen thighs. Let's see. Did you mention rotations? So I just posted that in chat, the rotations. For anybody joining that's late in the stream, you could go back and watch the past broadcast. We'll highlight this, put it on YouTube as well next week, and I'll also link to the forum thread right there. The forum thread has pretty much all of the information that we talked about. I'd say, well, most of it. A vast majority of the information we talked about, and it breaks down all the way down to stat priorities, recommended consumables, all that great stuff. So make sure you check it out. Let's see. Could you duel Tonka? Why? This is a PvE stream. I'm not a BAM.
I do have a PvP setup if you want to get wrecked. Just kidding.
No, I'd get destroyed. I don't know what I'm doing.
What Fluffy Tails asks, doesn't casting Hailstorm during Celerity make the second overage channel for Fire Blast wasted? No, because in general, the reason you see a lot of skills between Hailstorm and the second over channel is by the time you get to the second over channel, usually Hailstorm has ended. So, you put a lot of skills in between those two, a lot of heavy damaging skills, so that way the Hailstorm does not affect the second over channel.
And the question, any good crit value for Sork? I'm not sure I understand the question completely.
I think maybe he or she is asking, is there a soft cap to crit value? And in fact, from what I've heard out of TERA, there is.
Oh, okay. But we're not sure. I'm not sure what it is.
The players in TERA, from what I've heard, generally go to about 200 total. So, 38 plus whatever equals 200. And then they start building power after that.
Oh, wow.
I haven't done any testing to see whether or not that's actually useful or anything. I'm probably going to get on that as soon as I feel like it.
Wow. And I'm in Discovery, and I have Fire Trail and the Deathwise stuff, and I'll hover over that real quick. And I have plus 111, so 200 is quite lofty.
Yeah, it is quite lofty, but not impossible. I mean, you should be able to get close to 200 if you had a generation weapon and the etchings,
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, that's right. I don't have the etchings on, so that would definitely help a lot. Does Fraelian play anything else other than Sorcerer, and why do you keep playing Sorcerer?
I really love the Sorcerer's damage output and the fact that Sorcerers can actually go between ranged and melee distance. Like I said, I reposition at certain points in my rotation, so if I want to be up close and personal to the boss, it's not terribly hard to do.
Okay.
And do I play any other classes? At the moment, I only have my Sorcerer at level 65. I also have a Reaper, a Warrior, and a Priest. But I haven't bothered to level those yet. I'm still focusing on Sorcerer for the new content.
Alright, let's see here.
People saying the soft cap is 250 or 245. I'm not sure. This is just what I've heard out of TERA, and they say that most of the players there typically go up to around 200 or so. Like I said, I haven't tested that yet, so I'm not 100% sure on that. This is just what I've heard out of TERA.
Very cool, very cool. Why was this message deleted? Oh, that deserved deletion. Let's see. I'm thinking we're running out of questions. Any last minute questions before I let Fraelian head back into the world of TERA, and then we will do some giveaways. Let's see here. TERA goes to 200 because most classes don't need that much crit.
Yeah, I can generally see that, and like I said, I prefer to go for a crit and power hybrid. I prefer crit over power, but if I have something like an accessory where I can roll both, I generally will. So, I just like to do that just because that's personal comfort mostly. How do you feel Sorc DPS is compared to other classes? That's actually, really it depends on the sorcerer and their skill and their rotation. I've seen sorcerers who were, if you're just auto-attacking an entire burst of celerity, you're not going to have a very high DPS. But at the same time, I feel that sorcerers probably only lag behind the Slayer and the Berserker in terms of DPS output at the moment. Does Fraelian think Sorcs are the most underpowered class? Not even close. Not even close to underpowered. I will say that something that came out in TERA recently that we're going to get later on down the line near the end of the year is they're changing the glyph points for a lot of the really useful glyphs. They're lowering them considerably. And that, I cannot wait for that. That will just boost our DPS because we'll be able to have more glyphs to do more damage or maybe reduce MP usage so that we don't have to rely on consumables and healers as much.
And somebody asked, Discovery Weapon, Keen, Intense, or Quick. So we talked about that a little earlier, and what it came down to is you recommended Intense.
Yes, I recommend Intense over Keen because of the white damage rolls. Like I said, if you have the +3, +6, and +9 rolled to the same as the static lines above it, it's about a 40 or 45% increase in damage.
Awesome. Let's see here. Were there any other ones?
Someone asked about PvP sorcs. I don't really know. I'm only getting into PvP starting this year, so I'm nowhere near the best. That would be something for another player. But the other question, is Sorc heavily ping reliant? Very much so. When I first started, I was playing with a ping of about 150 to 200, and now that I've got a better connection, I'm down to a pretty steady 70 or so, and it's a massive difference. I can't actually describe how big the difference is. It's really a massive difference, just lowering the ping by about half.
Wow. So you're able to just... Is it because you're just able to complete the rotation so much quicker because you're not lagging behind?
Yeah, you're not lagging behind in skills. The information gets to the server and back from the server much, much faster. So you're able to see things almost as they're happening and react accordingly.
Yeah, and I guess that would come down to the what we were talking about, sorcerers being so squishy too. If you're lagging behind, you're not going to be able to avoid that damage all the time.
Yeah, and you might end up dying a lot.
All right. And yeah, as he mentioned, if you have PvP questions, we did do a PvP stream with Giraffe. So if you are interested in PvP version for the Sorcs, you can go back and check out those highlights on YouTube or on Twitch, and you can check out Giraffe's stream if Giraffe is streaming, of course. And I believe Giraffe was in stream a little bit earlier, but he might have taken off.
I must have missed that.
Yeah, I think he was here at the very beginning, I believe. I think I saw his name a couple times.
Someone asked where the healer should stand. I would not recommend right next to the sword. I would not recommend that. Especially if the Sork is playing at melee range. You know, they're up close. Probably not going to be there. Especially if you don't have a Slayer or a Berserker in there. Because, you know, the Sork might still aggro, and then the boss turns around, and then suddenly both of you are on the ground. You know, the healer might not die, but they might still get knocked down. So, not a good idea.
Spread yourself out. Don't stand next to the Sork.
Yeah, don't stand next to the Sork, especially if they're stealing aggro from the tank.
And then I've seen it a couple of times. Can you show us the basic rotation? Did you want to just run through the rotation real quick so people can just watch it in action?
Yes, since I'm currently lacking the plus 20, I'm just going to run through my first rotation rather than my second.
Okay.
I haven't quite fully memorized the second to be able to get it off without thinking about it, so this will be a lot smoother than that.
Okay. So this is the first rotation in that list.
Hopefully I don't run out of mana. And I did not quite make the mana infusion underneath the Burst of Celerity. I forgot to put on my Nostrums, which is something to think about. The Nostrum of Energy will... I see a lot of Sorks that don't use it, and I recommend it because it reduces the cooldown of Wart Barrier and Nova. So, you know, if you're going to be using Nova to actually do damage, definitely have a Nostrum of Energy. But the primary one the Sorks use is the Ranger's Nostrum. And, you know, if I had thought to put that on before my rotation, I'd have been able to get mana infusion underneath Burst of Celerity as well.
To complete the whole thing.
Yeah, let me just try that again with those on.
So you get up next to the target with that too, right there, because you get up into Nova, yeah?
Yes, because Nova does a lot of damage, and it's double crit rate glyph. You know, my attack speed currently, which is plus 13, is the minimum you need to have, because that double crit rate glyph from Nova only lasts 4 seconds. But if you have enough attack speed, you can actually get that to apply to your Fire Blast, which will increase your chance of getting a really high crit.
Okay.
I mean, I've seen crits of well over 3 million back damage on a Fire Blast before, so it's a lot of damage.
I love Nova. It's such a good skill.
Yeah, it's actually a very nice skill to have, especially if you need a knockdown mechanic like in Baptismal Rise, when the turtle is summoning the other turtles. This skill can actually help.
All right. So I think that's probably gonna do it. We're running out of time. But again, if you guys are interested in the information that we talked about here, Fraelian's got a Twitch stream. Says not on it too often, but of course, I think you should hit that follow button so when he's online, you can learn to play Sorcerer better.
Yeah, and when I get settled into life and actually get a job, then I'll be streaming more regularly. So, you know, that will be coming where you'll be able to see me playing TERA a lot.
Right, yeah. That's it's tough to nail down, especially for with people wanting to stream and stuff like that. When you're looking for work, you can never really talk about when you're going to be streaming and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, exactly.
I feel ya. There's people shooting fireworks off beneath us.
That's what I heard. I was like, is that lightning or did someone shoot off a firework?
All right, but I think that will do it. I want to thank you very much for coming on, and of course, for all this information. If you guys missed any part of the stream, we'll have this highlighted on Twitch, and it'll go up on our YouTube channel, so make sure that you are subscribing on YouTube. Any shout-outs you wanted to do before I let you go?
None really that I can think of other than obviously Yosha, because Yosha was a big help when I was first getting into Sorcerer, and I only got to level 60 just before the 65 patch, so a good bit of what I've learned has come from him, and then I've been able to take that and modify it to fit my personal preferences as well.
And I think that's very important for a lot of players to understand is you can learn from these masters of their classes, but you can always tailor it to your own play style. I think that's very important.
Yes, that's one of the big things is if you tailor it to what you prefer, I mean, there are some limits you can't pass, but generally I found that as I tailor it more and more to my play style, I can get my rotations off much smoother.
Awesome. Yep. So make sure that you guys are hitting the follow button on his Twitch stream, and I'll put that in chat again here. Guest Twitch. I think that's right. There it is. Yep, that's the Twitch stream. Hit that follow button if you want to learn some more about Sorks, and of course you can check out that forum post with more information. Thanks a lot, Fraelian, for coming on. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. One last thing,
yes.
I don't actually have a class guide. I'm considering creating one, but I'm not sure if I will. If I ever do, I'll make sure to get that out on my Twitch stream or something like that, so you'll know about it.
Awesome, and you definitely should. You should do that.
I've been thinking about it. I'm just too lazy.
It does take a lot of work to get. I mean, just coming on the streams is a lot of work too. Setting those up can be a lot of extra work. But I always love seeing all these class guides, and we're gonna try and do some more work with players in the world to get more guides out. So that's good.
All right. Well, thank you for having me on the stream. I really hope that it helped a lot of the people out there who are current sorcerers or maybe considering doing sorcerer as their main class, or even just creating an all. I actually really enjoyed this stream and being able to help where I could.
Yeah, and I appreciate you coming on for sure. And again, any of this information, you guys, is available, or any of this information is going to be available on the recordings, and you can check out the forum post as well. It has all that great information. So thanks again for coming on, and I'm going to let you go. Have a great rest of your day and weekend.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks. All right, bye.
Bye.
All right, guys, that was Fraelian of Ascension Valley. There was a lot of awesome information, and a lot of theory crafting goes into that too, and it's way over my head, way over my head. But it's so interesting to see all the numbers broken down. So again, if you guys wanted to see all that information broken down, here is the link to the forum thread. You guys can check that out. Make sure you hit a follow for him on Twitch. Very pleasant stream. All right, so